Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the opening and launch of our literacy curriculum mapping and resource procurement. It was really nice to have such a great turnout and see all of you who are so passionate about ensuring the future for our children in School City, Mishawaka. We really appreciated being able to explain to you the why and going behind our goals and our objectives of what we want to accomplish with this work committee. Talking about the state's expectations and resources that they provide, and then especially getting your input through the placemat activity and learning about what components you are passionate about and that you want to see in a literacy framework that we can adopt, and that'll help us choose the right materials to make sure that we ensure teachers' ability to feel supported in using those materials and also in student learning. We want to talk about a couple questions that came up and just make sure that we clarified responses to that. We had great questions from all of you. So one of the questions that you brought up in that meeting was our use of airways as a formative assessment and kind of our long-term intentions for that and how that relates to the curriculum mapping. So I just wanted to reiterate the response that I gave at the after-school meeting, and that is that if our implementation continues to go well, it is our desire to move forward with that as our formative assessment tool because of the same platform use as iLearn and our ability to best prepare our students in the comfort of using that platform. Obviously, if that isn't the result that we get from the implementation, then we can reevaluate at that time. But through the curriculum mapping process, we will have to really look at all assessments, not just the formative assessment tool or a diagnostic or even a growth monitoring tool, but really looking at what our assessment needs are and even looking at what Airways gives us and what it doesn't and supplementing with other materials. Oh, one of the other questions that came up was, are we really adopting new materials? And even the word choice of curriculum, are we adopting curriculum? And I just wanted to clarify again that a large part of this process is looking for materials and resources that support the literacy framework that we do adopt. But really the curriculum mapping is the bulk of the work, and that is done by you, the teachers in the classroom, and the resources that we choose and we do purchase will be just a support of the curriculum mapping work that you do. We aren't adopting a curriculum from a vendor. They don't provide us the curriculum, but instead the resources to support whatever curriculum we choose.
We also really appreciated your feedback that you gave on what are the essential components of literacy, what should be in a literacy framework. And so we combined all of those together and have a few key takeaways on what you want to see in a curriculum resource, but also more importantly in our literacy framework, our literacy guide. The first one was a focus on mentor texts. There's a strong belief that we should have authentic, meaningful, read aloud texts that are engaging to children, but are still connected to the comprehension and our literary strategies when we're reading. There's also a lot of highlights and emphasis on what a student does during independent work time or small group time. So some of the key components you listed were guided reading, purposeful conferencing with students. We had a few book clubs, reader theater was mentioned as well, and literacy stations. And that aligns very nicely with the State Department's literacy framework that we're looking for interactive components. Our students are not just sitting for 90 minutes for the literacy block, but rather it's interactive, and that includes small group, large group, one-on-one work, and being very strategic with the use of those. Another key theme that we saw throughout the takeaways was the incorporation of phonics, word study, and vocabulary, and making sure that we have that delineation between the content vocabulary and our academic vocabulary, and that exposure to that rich qualities of writing, and not just always giving them text at their level. The other piece was writing and nonfiction, having opportunities to engage in the writing process, looking at drafting, editing, revising, and that publishing piece, and a focus on nonfiction, and making sure that we have high quality text options that are nonfiction as well.
It was so nice to see that so many of you naturally reached consensus as we were looking at different groups, and knowing that so many of you really know what you want to see and what is high quality instruction and the materials you want to support that.
Yes, definitely a lot of similarities we noticed between the group. I know a lot of you had questions, especially after, about the number of participants. And what I do want to clarify is we did have to make that decision. Are we going to only select a few or include everyone? And so we did make that decision that this is your curriculum map. It is not the district map or our map. This is all of our map that every student and teachers going to be experiencing next year. So we want to involve everyone as much as possible in the process. But this also means that we'll have to be mindful that we're making sure we're being systematic. We're informing you of the process as we go, so we're not starting over each time with the group.
I think one thing that'll allow more consistency with people moving in and out of the groups is their availability of using technology, so that even those participants who aren't there writing curriculum on that day, we're transparent in our work and people have access to those materials and we can communicate in a variety of different forms.
And just to remind everyone, the schedule moving forward is taking what you gave us as key components in literacy. We're going to bring options to you of literacy curriculum resources. And so you'll have those short presentations on December 11th. And we're going to have criteria based on your input created like a rubric. And if you feel that one of these curriculum resources are meeting your needs as our core one, we will select that one and then move to the curriculum mapping that's aligned with our framework and our curriculum resource. If you don't feel that we found what we're looking for, we'll bring in additional vendors. Finally, no one followed me to the car, but I know you wanted to follow me. I was late to leave, so I wanted to give a few options. The first one, if we had some reading recovery teachers out there, Mari Clay also writes not just about reading recovery. She has a lot of texts that are not as well known about early literacy experiences for kids in preschool and kindergarten and age 5. So this one is called The Puzzling Code, talking about how students at an early age to the kindergarten level start interacting with text. It's very short, so Sarah can show you how short it is. With pictures and very easily digestible as compared to literacy lessons. The other one by Mari Clay is What Changes in Writing Can I See? So it talks about that writing progression at that young age and what you can see and what you can do to support strategically those writers. Another one who's one of my favorites is Katie, I always have trouble, Wood Ray, and it's called In Pictures and in Words. And so it talks about the writer's workshop and the writing process, starting at the young age of kindergarten to first grade, how you can support moving those pictures into actual writing and really reaffirming to kids that you are writing when you're creating those pictures. This one is read alouds across the curriculum. So when the Common Core came out, if you know Lester Lamanick, he wrote a text where he talks about how you can do read alouds across the curriculum and how they're connected to that high level, high order thinking, critical thinking that we want with the Common Core. And so they actually give examples of high quality trade books with a read aloud and then how you can use that across the curriculum. And the final one that I wanted to offer, if you wanted to do some additional reading, is Apprenticeship in Literacy. I know in Mishawaka you guys have the original one, the first edition. This is the second edition where Dorn and Sophus updated, and they put in a lot of great rubrics that I think we can look at for progress monitoring, literacy behaviors and activities authentically, and even can look at our competency-based grading system as well. Thank you, and we hope you have a good Thanksgiving.
Relax, you've earned it.